Begin, though, with the impact of rising prices everywhere and the pain that's causing millions of Americans.
Yeah, the new April numbers revealing that inflation still remains close to a 40-year high. And you've likely noticed just about everything costs more now, from the grocery store to the gas pump. According to AAA, the average price of a regular gallon of gas, I mean, do we even want to talk about this? It's $4.42. To put that into perspective, that's up 18 cents from just a week ago and more than $1.40 from last year. One of the states really feeling the pinch is Georgia. It ranks 7th of all states in miles driven by residents per year. And that is where we find NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber. She's in Gainesville, Georgia. Ellison, great to see you. Good morning. Over the past few years, Georgia has been at the center of the political universe. What are people there saying about the rising cost of gas, and who do they blame?
Yeah, I mean, they are incredibly frustrated. You talked about it. The national gas average today for the country is $4.42. Here in Georgia, the average this morning, $3.95. We went to 3 different politically significant but politically different counties to try and get a sense of what voters here think about all of this. We went to DeKalb County first. That's a solidly blue county that Democrats focus on to try and get high turnout. Then we went to Gwinnett County. That's a really important swing county these days. Then we came here to Hall County, which is a solidly red county that Republicans need and want high turnout in. As we spoke to people in all 3 counties, every single person told us they are frustrated with the prices that they're seeing at the pump and in the grocery store. They say they feel like it is not sustainable. Something needs to change. But when we ask them who or what is to blame, the answer is different. Listen.
Well, if the Republicans were in office, we wouldn't have this problem. That's the way I feel. I'm a Republican. Make this a political issue.
I don't think it's Biden's fault. I feel like it's just like because like of Russia and like how they control a lot of the oil and stuff like that.
Who do we pick? Who do with political issues? Do you pick this person because even though they got some great issues, but they're not wanting to deal with, the major issue of gas right now? Or do you pick the person that's going to deal with the gas issue, but then you don't like the rest of his issue?
Okay, so bear with me for a second because I'm going to try and do a little bit of math. We were talking to a gas station, a business owner yesterday. He owned, 1 or 2 gas stations, and he said, look, this is actually really bad for me as a business owner as well. He said the prime price that he was paying to buy a gallon of gas from Chevron was $3.37. He said he has to pay about 31 cents in federal taxes. In Georgia, the excise tax, that's gone at least until the end of the month. The governor suspended that. He said then there's also sales tax, not to mention that you have to pay the guy or the person who delivers the gas. So he says they're paying roughly $3.68 a gallon. He was selling it at $3.89. He said typically right now they're only seeing a profit margin of somewhere between 10 and 12 cents per gallon, and they're actually really relying on the things they're selling inside the stores to make a profit. So he was saying, all in all, he's hearing from customers they're frustrated. He said he's frustrated as well. Vicki?
Well, Georgia also has a Senate seat on the ballot this November, and in a state that has a notorious traffic issue, infrastructure issues. What are the candidates saying they're going to do to fix these problems?
Yeah, the question is this going to be a campaign issue? When you talk to Republicans, they say, yes, absolutely. The leading Republican Senate hopeful right now, Herschel Walker, in a statement from his campaign given to NBC News, he said this, quote, President Biden and Senator Warnock have managed to destroy the U.S. economy in just 16 months. I'm hearing from Georgia voters who say they didn't know a vote for Senator Warnock would cost them an extra 8.3% inflation tax on everything. These policies don't just happen, he says. They are a direct result of President Biden and Senator Warnock canceling the Keystone Pipeline, shipping American jobs overseas, and recklessly spending money we don't have. Senator Raphael Warnock, the incumbent Senate Democrat, his campaign told us this, quote, Reverend Warnock is laser focused on lowering cost for hardworking families all across the state. He is leading the fight to freeze the gas tax, cap the cost of insulin, and bring down the cost of prescription drugs, while also holding big corporations that are making record profits accountable for price gouging. I was talking to a source with Herschel Walker's campaign, and they told us they believe for Republicans heading into the general election, which right now it looks like the candidate will most likely be Herschel Walker based on the polls, they say they feel like gas prices, are the main issue in Georgia and something they will focus heavily on in a general election. Vicki?
Alice and Barbara, good to see you. First time I've seen you since you got married, so congratulations.
Yeah. Yay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, as we mentioned, and you're probably noticing, it's not just gas that's more expensive. The cost of food, cars, and electricity have all soared, and Americans are having a hard time making ends meet as a result. NBC News business and tech correspondent Jolene Kent has more on the economic fallout.
President Biden focusing on American farmers in his latest attempt to bring down food prices.
Right now, America's fighting on two fronts. At home, it's inflation and rising prices. Abroad, it's helping Ukrainians defend their democracy.
In April, inflation went up 8.3% compared to last year. The cost of rent, food, airfares, and new vehicles drove up prices. The president visiting an Illinois farm offering a new plan, which in part expands crop insurance for farmers who harvest two crops in the same field. Missouri mother of two, Megan Kaiser, feels it at the supermarket, with grocery prices up nearly 11% compared to last year.
You can kind of see that things are moving and just everything feels more expensive.
She feels it on the road, with gas prices soaring even higher.
When you're at the pump, you're thinking, okay, when is it going to stop rolling, right?
And she and her husband, Mark, also feel it on their family farm, where the cost of fertilizer has skyrocketed.
How much were you paying last year for nitrogen versus now?
So last year it was around $270 per ton, and now it's over $1,400 per ton.
What does that do to your budget and your ability to survive?
Well, it's scary.
Although the corn and soybeans they grow are selling at higher prices right now, Kaiser says the rising price of what goes into the crops put the family business at risk.
Everything's higher. Equipment's higher, land is higher, seed costs are up.
What is President Biden going to do to reduce inflation for American farmers who are helping to produce what we eat and what we serve on our kitchen tables?
It's a great question. First, he's doubling federal funding for fertilizer to try to get more fertilizer out to the farms that need it. Second, he's going to use precision agricultural techniques to help our farmers actually increase their crop production.
Despite inflation, President Biden's top economic advisor, Brian Deese, says the administration is also aware corporations have been bringing in record profits.
So one of our key focus has been, where can we encourage more competition, particularly by having more small businesses, more entrepreneurs come into a market, help to innovate and disrupt. That's not only good for our economy, but it will help bring prices down as well.
Prices that Megan Kaiser has to pay to get through this season ahead.
We're going to work some longer hours and be a little less comfortable for a while.
Our thanks to Jolene Kent for that report. Now, one other sector that's been hit hard by inflation, airfare. Prices are soaring. If you've tried to schedule a vacation, I'm sure you've seen over 18% just in the past month. That's the fastest rise on record.
Yeah, I've felt it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now to the fight over abortion rights. The Senate has failed to advance a bill that would have protected the right to a legal abortion. The vote was in response to last week's leaked Supreme Court opinion that indicated Roe versus Wade would be overturned. The Women's Health Protection Act, it passed the House, but on the Senate floor, it fell far short of the 60 senators needed to break a filibuster. All 50 Republicans, along with Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, voted against the bill. Vice President Kamala Harris was in the Senate chambers as that vote failed.
The Senate failed to stand in defense of a woman's right to make decisions about her own body.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Rafa joins me now. Good morning, Ali. This legislation, we knew it was basically doomed from the start, right? Democrats wanted everyone on the record, but it wasn't going to have enough votes to pass. There was still a fiery debate on the Senate floor, though, so walk us through what happened.
Yeah, Vicki, good morning. As you mentioned, this bill was likely doomed from the start, but that doesn't make it any less consequential. And you really got a sense of that even before the voting started on this bill yesterday. You had House Democrats who were pro-choice marching to the floor of the Senate, chanting, "My body, my decision." Some of these lawmakers even choosing to stay within the chamber up in the gallery seating during this vote. You had Vice President Harris, as you mentioned, brought in to cast a tie tie-breaking vote if needed, but at the end of the day, Democrats did not have the votes from the beginning to get this done, nor did they have the votes to pass a filibuster, a GOP-led filibuster, to get it done either. So this was largely a symbolic vote. It really gave Democratic senators an opportunity to use this high-profile moment to really deliver emotional speeches, powerful speeches about the impact this could have on women going forward if Roe is indeed overturned. Listen to how Senate Majority and Minority leaders Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell reacted to the vote yesterday.
For MAGA Republicans, this has always been about making abortion illegal everywhere.
Democrats' radical bill is as extreme gets.
And Vice President Harris, you played a little bit of that clip at the top there. She mentioned after the vote that this really makes it clear that the Senate does not align with where the majority of the American people stand on abortion rights and reproductive rights, Vicki.
Well, Ali, as you mentioned, Senator Joe Manchin was the lone Democrat to vote against this bill with the Republicans. What did he say about his reasoning?
Yeah, and he was actually the last vote cast on the Senate floor. And it's not that much of a surprise because this is exactly how he voted when this bill was proposed and brought to the floor earlier this year. But he said that while he is indeed pro-choice, he is indeed pro-codifying Roe v. Wade, this bill that was voted on yesterday was just a little too broad for him. Listen to what he had to say.
I was hopeful that the Democratic Party, having control of the agenda, would put a piece of legislation forward that would codify Roe v. Wade. 70% of the American public wants Roe v. Wade to be codified, as has been precedented law for 50 years. The bill we have today to vote on, the Women's Health Protection Act, and I respect people who support, but make no mistake, it is not Roe v. Wade codification.
And Manchin was also asked yesterday what his vote means for his party in the grand scheme of things, where he stands within his party. And he simply said that he understands he doesn't fit the mold. And that's just who he is, Vicki. And that's what we've seen time and time again as he continues to kind of break with his party.
Yeah, this isn't the first time we've seen that with Joe Manchin. All right, Ali, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Breaking overnight, a fast-moving wildfire tore through a number of multi-million-dollar homes in Southern California near the famous coastal town of Laguna Beach. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer is on the ground in Laguna Niguel with the latest. Hey, Miguel, good morning.
Good morning. Considering the size of this wildfire, it was fairly destructive. On this one block alone, we're told about a dozen homes were destroyed. Now, this fire is still, for the most part, contained, but crews are worried about hot embers flying through the air, and that could spark a new fire. But when so many folks return home, this is what they'll find.
Raging off California's pristine coastline, it wasn't the size but the sheer power of this volatile wildfire that caught even veteran firefighters by surprise. Within minutes, some 24 multi-million-dollar estates were incinerated in the gated hills near famed Laguna Beach.
It seems like a war zone out here.
Fueled by a dangerous combination of powerful 30-mile-an-hour ocean winds and bone-dry drought conditions, this inferno only torched some 200 acres, but it moved at breakneck speed.
We're seeing spread in ways that we haven't before. Again, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, fire like that might have grown to an acre, couple acres. We'd gotten there very quickly.
Starting as a small brush fire in the early afternoon, in just a few hours, the blaze sprinted uphill, surrounding, then engulfing sprawling properties perched in the mountains.
Memories, yeah, they're all gone.
The threat looming for hours, even after nightfall.
Despite the level of destruction here, crews say the damage could have been so much worse. They're now trying to stop embers from going from one rooftop to another.
In conditions like these, it's a miracle, say firefighters, that nobody was injured or killed. Fast evacuations save lives. The true extent of the damage still unclear.
I'm in disbelief right now, and I can just, when things can happen in an instant, it's unbelievable.
With the West already facing a dangerously fast start to fire season, due in part to climate change, this morning, California's beauty and Mother Nature's fury colliding in a fast-moving fire that took homes, but thankfully spared lives.
Overnight, conditions here improved dramatically. For the most part, those winds have died down, but that may not be the case over the next 24 to 48 hours. So this continues to be a big concern here that new spot fires could erupt. The good news here, only about 20 homes have been lost. This community is very densely populated. It could have been so much worse. Guys, back to you.
All right, Miguel Almaguer, thank you so much.
Let's go ahead and get a closer look at those conditions in California. We were just talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, Michelle Grossman is here in studio with us. We sure were, and look at that, right overnight.
I know. And you guys, it's so scary. He mentioned 20 homes, but there were 100 in its path.
Yeah.
And this started so fast, and it's really unique. So let's talk about it for a second before I get to the graphics. Normally in Southern California, Savannah, you're familiar with this.
Yeah.
You get those Santa Ana winds, those dry, warm winds. This was a cool wind off the Pacific Ocean. So this is very typical for this time of year, that wind. It was a 30-mile-per-hour wind, just started these fires because we are so dry. So let's tell you what's happening right now and what we can expect this afternoon. Miguel kind of said it perfectly. We saw the winds die down this morning. We're looking at cool conditions, really, 47 degrees. Relative humidity isn't all that low, but as we go throughout the afternoon hours, we're going to see the winds picking up once again. We put a contour over it. That's indicating where we're going to see 25-mile-per-hour winds once again. Again, it was only 30 miles per hour yesterday, but we are so dry. In fact, 34% of the West is in an extreme drought, and that's not going to get any better as we go throughout the next, let's say, 6, 7, 8 months. We need to get some good rain in here. We started out the season really good, but not so much after that. So here's the drought monitor. Again, 34% of the West in an extreme drought. And when you look at the statistics, California had the driest January to April on record. And when we're looking at rainfall, we are in the teens compared to normal. So Los Angeles, 19% compared to normal. San Francisco, 16%, and Long Beach. Here is what we're looking at today. Red flag warning, 6 million again under a red flag warning. Again, it only takes one little spark to start these raging wildfires because we have the winds in place and because we are so bone dry. The low humidity is in place too. So Denver, Pueblo, down to Clayton, you are into a critical risk. Now, as we're talking about other big stories, that's a big story today, but we are also under a severe threat again in the upper Midwest. We had tornadoes yesterday. We're going to see the threat for that once again today. 10 million at risk. We could see really large hail once again, winds gusting to 70 miles per hour and tornadoes. And then as we go throughout tomorrow, we're going to see that shifting to the east. So you guys, it feels like it's on repeat, right? That same story. We're not getting a break. It's day after day. Everything's lasting a little longer.
Yeah, and it is just so crazy to, in the same weather forecast, talk about 2-inch hail and talk about these wildfires. There's just so much going on across the country.
Snow in the west, in the higher elevations.
Yeah,
keeps you busy for sure, Michelle.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. We'll see you next hour. Now let's get to some breaking news out of Europe, which could have a major impact on the war in Ukraine. This morning, Finland's president and prime minister have issued a joint statement expressing their desire to apply for NATO membership, quote, without delay. Now, Russia sees NATO expansion as a threat and has warned of consequences if historically neutral countries like Finland, like Sweden, join the alliance. Speaking yesterday alongside Britain's prime minister, Finland's president said Russia would only have itself to blame if his country does join NATO.
We would like to maximize our security in way or another while thinking membership in NATO. When you ask how they see possible Finnish joining, well, if that would be the case that we join, well, my response would be that you caused this. Look at the mirror.
NBC News senior national correspondent Jay Gray joins us now from Lviv. That's in western Ukraine. Jay, thanks for being with us. So we'll get to the latest on the ground there in Ukraine in just a moment. But first, let's start with this potential NATO expansion. So the Finnish president, as we just heard, just mentioned security there. That's, of course, Article 5. We've talked so much about this, that collective defense clause within NATO. But this is a historically neutral country. So how big of a step would this be? And how is Moscow taking this?
Yeah, it is a big deal, and I can tell you that even on the ground here, people are talking about this move. Look, remember that they share about an 800-mile border with Russia, and since the invasion, in public polls, the question of joining NATO has gone from 30% positive to over 80% at this point. So clearly, it's had some effect on how they feel about their security. Let's get to a joint statement from both the president and the prime minister. In that statement, they say NATO membership would strengthen Poland's security. As a member of NATO, Finland would strengthen the entire defense alliance. Finland must apply for NATO membership without delay. We hope that the national steps, sorry, I'm having a little breakup here, still needed to make the decision will be taken rapidly within the next few days. So they want to move this along as quickly as possible. Russia has responded, and they've talked about this in the past, warned about this, saying that there would be, and these are their words, consequences if the nation was to join NATO.
There's a lot to watch for there as that unfolds. Obviously, a dramatic shift on the international stage if it were to happen. Now let's talk about what's going on there in Ukraine. So we're again watching Mariupol and that besieged steel plant where those wounded soldiers are holed up. We're hearing, no medical supplies, amputees. It just seems like just such a terrible situation within those walls. Now, we understand Ukraine has been in talks to get them out, has proposed a deal to Russia. Tell us a little bit about that and the situation there. Is there a possibility they will get out soon?
Well, there seems to be no movement back and forth. We do know that Ukraine has offered to trade war criminals for those who are injured to allow them to leave. The UN has been negotiating for weeks trying to get those injured soldiers out of that steel plant. To this point, there's just been no movement from the Russian side. They refuse to have a temporary peace treaty there to move these soldiers out. And you described it perfectly. I mean, they're in this area, many of them with severe wounds. There's no medical care, no doctors, no medicine, no wraps that are sterilized. So they're in desperate need of help there. What we do know on the ground is that troops have now sealed off underground exits from that steel plant, and they're moving tanks into the region.
Lots to watch for there. Now, I also do quickly want to ask you, before I let you go, about an occupied southern city. It's Kherson, and that's because this could be a look at what's to come. Because yesterday, Russian-appointed authorities in the city said they plan to ask that this city be annexed. That's something they're asking of Moscow, of Putin. Now, on the Ukrainian side, an advisor to the president did tweet and compare this essentially to asking to join Mars or Jupiter, basically dismissing this. But what does this mean? What could happen here?
Yeah. Well, it was the first city to fall, and Russian occupiers are the ones saying this. They plan to appeal to Vladimir Putin personally, directly, to say that it's time to annex this area. They say by the end of the year that Kherson will be under Russian law. The Kremlin seems kind of cold on the idea. They have put out an official statement. I want to read part of it here. It basically says it's up to the residents of Kherson to determine their own fate.
All right, Jay Gray, as always, we so appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much.
For more on Ukraine, we're going to bring in Joe Serencione. He's a distinguished fellow at the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. Good morning, Joe. Let's start with Finland and its plans to join NATO. One of the reasons Putin invaded Ukraine was to prevent the expansion of NATO on Russia's borders. Now we see that Russia could potentially have NATO troops and weapons, as Jay talked about, along the 800-mile border that it shares with Finland. What kind of response do you expect from Russia if Finland does indeed join the alliance?
Well, Vladimir Putin has threatened, and I quote, severe military and political consequences if Finland should join NATO. Practically speaking, though, there's not much he can do to stop this from happening besides his political bluster. Russian forces have invaded Finland many times over the centuries. The Finnish are well aware of this. For 77 years now, they have thought that their main security was coming from New neutrality, from non-alignment, being neither part of the Russian or Soviet bloc or the NATO bloc. The invasion of Ukraine has dramatically changed their thinking. As Jay said, 6 months ago, only 20% of the Finnish people supported joining NATO. Now that is well over 80%. The decision has been made at the highest levels. We expect on Monday that the parliament will debate and vote on this, and it should take place probably within this year. Both Sweden and Finland will formally join the NATO alliance, greatly strengthening that military alliance.
Yeah, that is a dramatic change from 20% to 80% public approval. You talked about it. Sweden also considering joining NATO. These two Nordic nations have this long history of neutrality, but as we heard the Finland leader saying, you know, Russia, look in the mirror. If you want to know why this country is going to join, it's because of you. What does this mean for the world? Does it make the world a safer place?
I think it does. Having these very powerful militaries, Finland and Sweden have very strong militaries on their own, and now bringing them into NATO and having that kind of resources consolidated helps deter Russian aggression. I mean, that's the main point. NATO has always been a defensive alliance, first against the Soviet Union and now increasingly over Russia. I got to tell you, whatever Putin thought was going to happen when he invaded Ukraine, that he would quickly occupy that he would use that as sort of a wedge to split NATO, it's completely backfired. It's exactly the opposite. NATO is more unified now than at any time since in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, when they rallied to defend the United States. It's growing stronger, not weaker. You know, Putin has created the very military and political nightmare he was trying to avoid.
And this would be a significant expansion if these two Nordic countries join. Earlier this week, Joe, Ukraine's foreign minister said the country's military goals have evolved since the war began. Now, instead of just reclaiming the territory it lost, it wants to recover all the Ukrainian spaces that Russia has occupied since 2014. Is that a real possibility? And what's a realistic goal for the Ukrainians at this point before I let you go?
That would be a heavy lift. I understand why they want to do that. Of course, every nation would want to expel the foreign invaders, would like to get their land back. But I think it's more realistic to think that Ukraine can push the Russian forces back to the lines they held before the war, that is February 24th. As the U.S. artillery that we're giving them moves in, as they're getting more and better equipment, I think the likelihood is that Ukraine can push the Russian forces back, but push them all the way out, push them out of Crimea, that may be a bridge too far.
Joe Serencione, we appreciate your insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.